Okay, I am concerned that Nintendo in the first half of 2026 is kind of just launching the same game 3 times. And I'd really like to be wrong. I mean, already launching 3 titles on a new console that fall into the same genre is a bit surprising. I would assume they'd be trying as hard as possible to have a diverse game lineup. And in a lot of ways, they do. I remember I was also surprised when we got Kirby Air Riders and Mario Kart World so close together. Okay, let me explain my concerns here. So, Tomodachi Life is a life sim game where your character starts off on a barren, empty island, and as you interact with the game and add more characters, the island community becomes larger, and they can build relationships with one another, and the island itself gains more shops and environments. Pokopia is a life sim game where your character starts off living on a barren, empty island, and as you build up the environment through crafting, the island community becomes larger, and you unlocked more environments and more Pokemon and even buildings. These were both preceded by Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch 2 Edition, which is a life sim game where your character starts off on a barren, empty island, and as you interact with the game through crafting, cleaning it up, and adding more characters, and befriending characters that are already there, and also customizing the island community becomes larger and gains more shops and features. You know, last week I put out a pretty long video by my standards where I was musing about my feelings on the way Nintendo markets to cozy gamers, and a lot of these cozy gamers are women. I accused Nintendo of falling into cutesy stereotypes, and I mused whether there was a kind of sexist element to this. That script was actually already written, and the video was mostly filmed by the time the direct for Tomodachi Life was airing, so I don't have a lot about Tomodachi Life in there. I also appreciated a few people in my comments pointing out to me that the last Tomodachi Life was set on an island, since I'd been critical that the game was mimicking New Horizons in that way. Thank you for telling me that. I hadn't actually realized that about the 3DS game, so it gives them a bit more credit. However, they also literally could have just not done that again. This is not a long-standing series with deep-rooted traditions. There is only one other game. 2 if you count the Japan-only release that's pretty obscure. It still feels to me like they did it to be safe, and to the average player, it does reminisce of Animal Crossing, and I think they knew that and still stuck with the decision on purpose. Like, I feel like Nintendo of years ago might have said, oh, we just did the island thing, let's set this new game somewhere else. And instead they went for the less creative option. And with how popular that game was, the aesthetic is going to be forever associated with New Horizons. Look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Tomodachi and Pokopia are different enough from Animal Crossing that it doesn't feel like I'm being sold the same game 3 times. But right now, it just feels like, would you like your island sim with just animals, just people, or a combination of both? Okay, let me be fair now. What is actually different about these 3 games? Because there's a decent amount that is different. Tomodachi Life seems much more focused on the relationships between the Miis and building on their interactions with one another. There doesn't seem to be a ton of actual building involved either, nor any traditional crafting system. So, from what I understand, it's not on you to build up the island other than creating the characters, and the island kind of builds up itself. Again, this game is not out yet, I could be wrong. Pokopia seems very focused on the actual building and crafting. You have more direct control over the environment and what environments you end up creating, and these will shape what creatures you end up having around you. It's much more about building habitats than building a human living space. And, well, I'm sitting here going, what are they thinking releasing these 2 1 month apart, like right after the Animal Crossing update? I actually did think of a few explanations for this. 1, a lot of people, despite the update, have not returned to Animal Crossing and are ready for something new. I mean, not so new that they won't buy it, but new enough that it's not just their same old island that they've had for years. 2, there may not be as much community crossover with these titles as I'm picturing. Pokopia is part of a franchise, and if you have a gamer that likes cozy but isn't into that franchise, there's a chance they would just skip this one entirely. I could see it being a weakness if your only new cozy release is part of a franchise like Pokemon. 3. Tomodachi Life is less focused on the wilderness, and it does add all of those juicy romance options, and that might capture a slightly older audience of casuals than Pokopia would. But at the end of the day, I'm bothered by Nintendo's lack of creativity. I don't even want to call it too safe to make the games based on islands, because what made people love Animal Crossing was that it was creative, and it was different. The deserted island that you build up hadn't really been done before in a big way. So rather than trying to build up these new games based on their own creativity and efforts, I feel like they're still relying on the audience to go, well, I liked when the Mega Famous game did that. It's almost as if they didn't trust their own ideas. For both of these new titles to be so similar to each other, and they're both mimicking a mega hit from the last generation, feels really devoid of originality. It feels like a misunderstanding of what made that original game great, and it just feels cheap. And when the price tag isn't so cheap for any of these, it just makes it feel worse. Mario Kart World had original ideas and a neat new world. Donkey Kong Bonanza had original ideas and a neat new world. Even Metroid Prime 4 had original ideas and a neat new world. You want to capture this cozy casual market, and yet you want to give them something that they already have. And if you don't have any faith in your own idea, then why would I? Also, how dare you make these 3 cool, vibrant, educated women literally fight over some clown? Alright, what do you guys think? Do you think my anxiety that these 3 games are just way too similar is unfounded? Do you agree with me? Are you somewhere in the middle? I know either way, I am going to buy both Pokopia and Tomodachi Life and definitely give them a try, and I want to know what you guys think, so leave a comment below, and I will see you next week.